We spend about a third of our entire lives doing it, but sleep, it is still one of the biggest mysteries in biology. So, to try and get some answers, one person took on a pretty extreme experiment, staying awake for a full 36 hours. What actually happens to your mind and your body when you push it that far?
And really, a huge part of this mystery comes down to one question. Why do we dream? We all have them, those super weird, vivid, sometimes amazing, sometimes terrifying movies that our brain plays for us every night. What is actually going on in there?
So, to figure out just how important sleep and dreaming really are, the challenge was set. The goal was to stay completely awake for 36 hours in a row. Think about that for a second. That's an entire day followed by an entire night and then another half a day on top of it. No sleep at all.
And it's kind of wild when you do the math. When it all adds up, we spend almost a third of our time here on Earth completely unconscious. A third. That is a massive investment of our time. So whatever is happening when we're asleep, it has to be incredibly important. But, how much we need changes a ton over our lifetime. For instance, babies can sleep for up to 20 hours a day. That's almost constant. As adults, we tend to settle into that familiar 6 to 9 hour range. And as we get older, that can drop to just 5 or 6 hours. So our need for sleep really evolves right along with us.
Okay, so before we get into what happens when you take sleep away, it really helps to understand what a normal night's sleep is even supposed to look like. What's the brain's regular nightly routine? Psychologists have this fantastic way of explaining it. Think of your brain like a kid's room at the end of a long day of playing. It's a total mess, right? Well, dreaming is like the brain's cleanup crew coming in every night. It sorts through all the day's experiences, decides what's important to keep and what's just junk to be thrown out. It's a totally essential tidying up process.
And this whole cleanup happens in cycles, over and over, all night long, each one lasting about 90 minutes. It all starts as you drift into light sleep. Then you sink into deep sleep, and this is super important for your body. It's repairing itself, boosting the immune system, storing memories. And then you hit dream sleep, or REM sleep, which is for all that intense mental and emotional sorting. Then the cycle starts all over again.
So what is it that tells our body it's time to go to bed? Well, it's a hormone called melatonin. You can think of it as our body's own personal slumber substance. It's really cool, actually. When your eyes sense that it's getting dark, a little part of your brain gets the signal to start pumping out melatonin, and that's what makes you feel tired. It's our own internal clock, totally synced up with the day and night.
Okay, so that's what's supposed to happen. But what happens when you just ignore that clock and keep going? This is where the 36-hour experiment really kicks off, and let me tell you, the decline is fast and it is noticeable. Just look at this contrast. Before the experiment started, when he was well rested, cognitive tests were a breeze. Concentration game? Easy. But after 24 hours awake, total failure. It was the same with memory. A simple shopping list that he could easily recall before was now impossible to remember. The brain's core functions were literally starting to shut down.
And the effects weren't just mental. Physically, things started to go wrong, too. Blood pressure began to rise, the immune system got weaker, making him much more likely to get sick. He felt cold all the time, and emotionally, he became super irritable and, as we saw, totally unable to concentrate. It's a full system breakdown.
Finally, after 36 really grueling hours, the deprivation part is over. Our subject is completely exhausted, and now it's time to get him to the sleep lab to figure out what happens next. All right, now for the recovery phase. This is where the science gets really interesting. The whole next part is about measuring exactly how the brain and body try to bounce back after being pushed so hard. A sleep lab is a pretty high-tech operation. Our subject was hooked up with wires to measure his brain waves, belts around his chest to keep track of his breathing, a microphone to listen for snoring, and of course, a camera to watch every little movement. This whole setup gives you a complete picture of the recovery process. And what they found was just stunning. On a typical night, about 20 to 25% of our sleep is that REM dream sleep. But on this recovery night, wow, the amount of dream sleep was way, way higher. His brain basically went into overdrive trying to catch up. And what this shows is that when it's faced with a massive sleep debt, the brain doesn't just sleep longer, it actually sleeps smarter. It aggressively prioritizes dream sleep, that's the mental and emotional cleanup phase. It's like it knows it has a huge backlog of stuff to process, and it gets right to work on the most important job.
So the microphones in the lab are also listening for other things. Which brings us to a very common and sometimes very loud sleep phenomenon. What is actually happening when we snore?
Well, the main culprit is a piece of anatomy called the soft palate. It's that muscular flap at the very back of the roof of your mouth. When you're awake, it's held firm. But when you fall asleep, just like the rest of your muscles, it relaxes. And here's the simple mechanics of it. When you're breathing quietly, probably through your nose, air flows smoothly and the soft palate stays put. But if you're breathing through your mouth while you're asleep, that now relaxed, kind of floppy soft palate gets in the way of the airflow. It starts to flutter and vibrate, and that vibration is the sound that we all recognize as snoring.
So after all this, staying up for 36 hours, getting wired up in a lab, even learning about snoring, what's the big takeaway from all of it?
The single most important thing to remember is that sleep isn't just your body shutting down for a bit. It is an incredibly active and essential process. It's your body's dedicated time to repair itself, to strengthen your immune system, and, critically, for your brain to sort through memories and process emotions. Sleep isn't a luxury you can skip. It is a non-negotiable biological need.
So I'll leave you with a final thought to sleep on. The next time you get into bed, don't think of it as just the end of your day. Think of it as the beginning of a really crucial job. And just ask yourself, what important work is my brain about to accomplish for me tonight?